Before we get to this preview, though, this is going to be a part of my preview a little bit. And it goes back to how I was talking about Fields, and it relates to that in a way. But this is more directed towards just the Steelers' approach and Tomlin's approach to winning football games. I was listening to Colin Cowherd yesterday, and he had Julian Edelman on. And they were talking about the Chargers. They were talking about Jim Harbaugh. And Edelman was giving tons of praises for Harbaugh and his coaching style. And rightfully so. Jim Harbaugh is already one of the best coaches in the NFL. He was one of the best coaches when he was with the 49ers, goes to college, makes Michigan a powerhouse again, wins a national championship, walks away from that, comes back into the league. I think I put him in the top 5 or 6 for my head coach power rankings heading into the season just because it's Jim Harbaugh. He's literally that damn good. But anyway, Edelman goes on and talks about Harbaugh's approach and why he's such a good coach and why players want to play for him and what his coaching style is. And the quote is, he says, that's what's being shown on the game field. A team that practices, a Harbaugh-style team that practices hard, that's prepared, that has the discipline to do what it takes to win a game, not put up numbers or make headlines, doing what it takes to win that specific game. That's what Harbaugh does well. Sound familiar? Does that not sound familiar? Does Mike Tomlin not do the same thing here in Pittsburgh? Looks at the game in front of him, tries to devise the best scheme, the best game plan to win that game, and get out of the stadium with a W. No matter how ugly it is, no matter how many stats we put up, no matter how many offensive points are on there, no matter how many times we punch it into the red zone versus kick field goals, let's get out of there with a win. Tomlin does it. And Harbaugh does it. They only won against the Raiders last week, 22-10. But people are talking up Harbaugh for his coaching style and gritty performances and just grinding it out. Whereas I think Steeler fans take Tomlin and him doing that here for granted. National media gives Tomlin his props and everything, but way too many Steeler fans rip on Tomlin and say, we need a better offense. Tomlin doesn't know what he's doing from an offensive standpoint. The defense isn't going to hold up. Meanwhile, we keep winning games. We seem to keep winning games. And we saw with Mason Rudolph last year, probably all it took for our team to go from a 10-7 record to maybe being like 13-4 or 14-3 was quality quarterback play. And Mason Rudolph gave us that. And it wasn't even like Mason was throwing for 350 and 3 touchdowns. No, he was going for 252, taking care of the ball, and we were putting up 30 points as an offense. So, yeah, do I want more points than 18? Yeah, I think we all do. But let's also give credit for getting wins. That's the most important thing. I swear some Steeler fans sometimes, man, I swear they would be more happy with us putting up 40 points and losing in like a 42-40 game as opposed to winning 18-10. What's the difference, man? What's the difference? I get it. We do want to get better as an offense, but it's week 1, bro. It's week 1. There were a lot of positives to take away from what Justin Fields did and this offense did. And yeah, I think a lot of things we can build off. I think the framework's there. I think what Justin Fields did was awesome in terms of going in and not losing the game. Like that was like the number 1 priority. Take care of the ball, manage the game. And he did that. And then he made some really nice splash plays. He made some really nice throws down the field when needed and put us in position to score points. We scored points. Defense took care of business, and we win the game. So let's give some respect to Mike Tomlin, man. Let's give some respect to Mike Tomlin and how we do things here in Pittsburgh. Because we got this dude, Harbaugh, out on the West Coast getting praised for it. Getting praised for making his Chargers team a tough team a run first type of team. We're going to be built on defense, run first, out physicaling the other teams. He's getting praised for it, but a lot of Steeler fans are calling for Tomlin to get fired. Make it make sense, man. Make it make sense. Let's get to this preview. And why I wanted to bring this up is because, honestly, I think the Steelers, when you look at last week, I think they just really got to take what they did last week and replicate it for this week. I think that's a very good starting point for facing off against Denver. Take care of the ball. Don't beat yourselves. Play lights out defense. And Boz, maybe get ready to set an NFL record for the longest field goal. Maybe, because he was bombing them all from 50 plus last week. He had three, one from 57, one from, was it 55, and another one from 51. He had three of those. So if we get you in range of 60 plus, just get ready, because we know Denver and the high altitude, that enables the ball to travel a little bit further. We might throw balls out there for a 68, 69-yard field goal. I wouldn't put it past us. Definitely not. But if you look at this Denver team versus the team we just played, both games are on the road. But roster for roster, Denver is worse across the board compared to the Falcons. Worse quarterback, worse receivers, worse tight end, worse offensive line, worse running backs. I like Javonte Williams, but they're starting to use their backup a little bit more than Javonte. They're pretty much, as an offense, worse across the board than what the Falcons were. And then you look at the defense, it's the same thing too. And I was ripping on the Falcons front seven. I don't think the Broncos really are anything better. Now, they looked all right getting pressure on Geno Smith last week, but I think that was more due to the Seattle offensive line being bad, particularly on their tackle spots. But you look roster for roster, Denver's worse than Falcons on offense. Denver's worse than the Falcons on defense. Denver really only has Patrick Surtain on that defensive end as like a guy to really highlight, to worry about. Outside of that, front seven, linebackers, nah. They're CB2, CB3, safeties. They lost Justin Simmons. They lost a lot this offseason. Obviously, Russell's not back. They lost Jerry Jeudy on offense. Now, I think he's a little bit overrated. But, they don't really have much going for them. So you got to think, they were supposed to be a bad team this year. They're eating up $53 million in dead cap because of the Russell Wilson contract. That's 1/5 of the salary. So it makes sense if your team isn't necessarily up to snuff compared to a lot of other rosters in the league. When you're taking on $53 million in dead cap, that's like, depending on how you split up that $53 million, that's 4 or 5 quality players that you're missing out on. If you want to split it in half, that's 2 players, 2 elite players you could be paying $25 million to. So they were supposed to be bad this year. Now they got some hype that, maybe they could be a sleeper team and everything, and watch out for Denver. Could they make some noise? They only got that due to preseason and what Bo Nix was doing in preseason. But they were really supposed to be bad. And we, as Steeler fans, know about preseason and how we shouldn't be taking it that serious. Even me, myself, got a little bit fooled with the Bo Nix and the Broncos hype watching him in preseason. I was like, you know what? Bo Nix could be good, man. I'd watch out. He's a good fit for this scheme. He's a good fit with Sean Payton. And now that still may be true, but I don't think it's all the way there just yet after looking at what they did week 1. Maybe they could get there by midseason, but Denver on offense, they look bad. Denver on defense, they look bad. They got a little bit lucky on defense just because Seattle, I think it was 2 or 3 times in that game, were backed up on the 1, and they were able to get some safeties on the Seahawks. Outside of that, Geno, he didn't have a problem moving the ball down the field. Seattle definitely didn't have a problem running the ball. Kenneth Walker had over 100 yards on the ground. So there's no reason why the Steelers, if they did what they did last week against the Falcons, can't do similar things against this Denver team, if not better things against this Denver team, because, again, this Denver team is worse than last week's Falcons team. Like, it's not even a question in my mind. Now, we got to be careful with that, because how many times do we say there's no way the Steelers should lose this game? I can't even fathom it. And then we get a Tomlin loss. It happened multiple times last year. Multiple times. Texans game, that was an early one. Texans ended up being a pretty good team, but then we had that stretch of 3 games late in the season where we're playing the Browns with DTR, the Cardinals, who are one of the worst teams in the league. Granted, they did get Kyler Murray back for that game. Like, Kyler Murray actually didn't play that bad when he came back from injury. And then the Colts and the Patriots at home. Like, those games, you're sitting down looking at yourself saying, there's just no way the Steelers are going to lose. There's no way. They can't. It can't get worse than this. And then it did. And Mason Rudolph came in and saved the season. But I digress. I feel like it's kind of a similar scenario here. We're favorited at Denver. We're favorited by, I think, 3.5 points. It might even got up to 4 points as we sit here on Wednesday. I like our chances, but that's the framework, really. That's the framework. Just don't beat yourselves. We did that last week against the Falcons. Don't beat yourselves. Let the defense ball out. Do Boz things. And we're good. We're gravy. We win 18-10. So if we just go from that starting point and take it over to this Denver game in week 2, we should be fine. But I see no reason why the offense can't do better. Denver defense let up a lot on the ground against Seattle. And I feel like if Justin Fields is already being, in a way, declared the starter this early in the week, Arthur Smith will be able to scheme up some stuff better for Fields in this offense in the running game and do more read options, do more design runs for Fields. And that can get us, getting going on the ground against this Denver team. Like, that's just another element we could bring to the table. And they're already, based off week 1, not that good in rush defense. And then you go to the Steelers defense versus Broncos in their offense. Man, Bo Nix had like 42 attempts last week, and I think around 150 passing yards. And Seattle was still able to get after Nix and pressure him and make him have 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and probably could have even been more than that. Probably could have been 3 or 4. So we're going to have to tackle. There's no doubt about it. Nix is going to want to get the ball out quick, but I think we're built for that. We got a good secondary. We saw what the secondary did last week. JPJ, Dante Jackson. I say we press up a little bit, and then we bring some heat. Make Nix get the ball out quick and make sure we tackle. Because if he doesn't get the ball out quick, 2-3 seconds go by, TJ Watt, Highsmith, Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, pick your poison. One of those dudes is going to be in Bo Nix's face, and he's going to be taking sacks. So I don't see why we don't get out of this stadium with a win. I definitely don't. Tomlin is 24-6 against rookie quarterbacks, and we know that list includes a bunch of quarterbacks that are better than Bo Nix. So I don't really know why Bo Nix would be the guy to add another loss to Tomlin's record there against rookie quarterbacks. Key matchups to watch out for, though. I already mentioned them with Broncos on defense. Their main guy being Patrick Surtain. Pickens versus Surtain. Surtain's one of the best in the league. Pickens, he's one of the best receivers in the league. The Fields Pickens to connection last week was real. One of our other guys are going to have to step up, probably. Because I don't know if you want to test Pickens versus Surtain like we did with A.J. Terrell. There's a difference there between Surtain and Terrell. Like, you can test it, but be smart about it. So look for Muth. Can Roman Wilson get healthy and get out there? Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, could they turn it around from their week 1 performances? This honestly might be the game where we, depending on how our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th receivers do, all of our guys outside of Pickens, depending on how they do, this might be the game that we look at ourselves and Say, okay, I think it's time to trade for a receiver. It's time to pick someone up. Depending on how they do, because this is the type of game where I feel like we're going to need some help. Muth, get 5 or 6 catches. Roman Wilson, hopefully he's healthy. Can you get a couple targets? Can you get open? Can you be a QB-friendly guy for Fields? And then basically flip it. We'll go Steelers cornerback 1 versus Denver's wide receiver 1, Courtland Sutton. JPJ versus Courtland Sutton. That's a matchup to watch for. I don't know. Like, how much did JPJ follow around Drake London last week? I know Drake London was held to basically a goose egg stat line. Didn't he have like 1 catch for 10 yards or something like that? JPJ did really good against him. I don't know if Courtland Sutton is as much of a threat as Drake London that we have JPJ following around Courtland Sutton like that. JPJ might be a better fit for going up against like a Josh Reynolds. I'm just thinking about styles. Like Dante Jackson might be a better matchup for Courtland Sutton. There's no reason why JPJ couldn't hang with a Courtland Sutton. I'm just saying, like, why don't we get a big-bodied guy like JPJ on a big-bodied guy like Josh Reynolds and let Dante Jackson match up with a shiftier Courtland Sutton? Maybe that's the way the Steelers approach it. Could be. But outside of Courtland Sutton, there's not many guys I'm worried about on this Denver offense. We just went up against Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Bijan Robinson. Denver, it's Courtland Sutton, Reynolds. I don't even know the name of their tight end. And then a combination of Javonte Williams and another guy, their backup running back, who I just learned about today when watching it. I don't even remember his name at all. Like, that's the difference. And we were able to, for the most part, lock up those guys on the Falcons offense, those Falcons weapons. We shouldn't have a problem doing that with the Denver offense and their weapons. And their quarterback's worse, too. Bo Nix is worse than Kirk Cousins at this stage of the game. Can anyone argue with that? You know, I'm not that high on Kirk Cousins. I don't even think Kirk Cousins is that good. But, yeah, Bo Nix and Kirk Cousins right now. I like us to win. I don't know if the Broncos pass 10 points. Maybe I'll give them 9. Maybe I'll give them like 3 field goals. I think we get over 20. Give us like 23-9, 24-9, something like that. Chelsea on agrees with me too. Says Surtain and Sutton are the only weapons. That's really it. And you understand why, given that they have the Russell Wilson contract on their dead cap. They lost a lot of pieces. This is a rebuild team. This is a team that was not supposed to be good this year, but picked up some buzz, picked up some hype in the preseason with Bo Nix and their offense looking good. But when it came regular season time, at least in week 1, they were not that same team. And we know about that here in Pittsburgh. Watching what happened in 2023 with the Kenny Pickett-led offense in preseason versus what we got to see in the regular season. It was night and day. So right now it looks to be the same case for the Denver Broncos. Looks to be the same case. And it might be different come midway through the year because Nix is just a rookie and Sean Payton is a really good coach. He's a good offensive mind. So maybe they start building chemistry. They start building momentum as the season goes on, but it ain't going to be it for them in week 2. This ain't the time to be doing that. But that's it for today's show, guys. Appreciate everyone for stopping through. Hope you enjoyed. I got Steelers again. I think I got us 23-9, 24-9, and we're going to be sitting 2-0. And I think the conversation about who should be the Steelers starter continues on to week 3. And I think it even becomes a more legitimate case for Fields being the guy versus Russ, whether or not Russ, even if Russ is fully healthy. I think it's not even going to depend on Russ's health. I think Fields is going to potentially play his way into being the guy. But stay chilling. Enjoy the rest of the week, the weekend. Enjoy the game. Stay chilling. Peace.